Welcome to Stores and Glitterballs with Jess and Lindsay.
And welcome to the first ever bonus episode.
Yes.
Finally got round to doing this. It's a review of
Taking some time.
yeah, taking some time of mentioning it. It's going to be a review of Hamilton, which we watched on Disney Plus. I feel like it's been out for over a month now, isn't it?
Yeah, was it like beginning of July, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like a summer treat because I believe it was scheduled for a lot later than that originally.
Yeah.
So it's very very nice lockdown treat as well. And I think it's safe to say that we're both quite obsessed, aren't we?
Just a tad. Yeah. It's just like amazing. Like I barely knew anything about it before I watched it, other than everyone was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of wasn't like that fussed about it at first, but I was like, I feel like I ought to watch it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of underestimated it.
oh yeah, definitely. Like going in, like I say, same with Lindsay. Going into it, I knew nothing about it really. I'd obviously heard of it and heard that it was making waves, in the industry. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, nothing. I'd not heard nothing about it. So we both went in, quite blind.
Yeah.
But what a treat if it's your first time. If it's your first time seeing it, prepared to be blown away for sure.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, there'll probably be spoilers. So.
Oh yeah. Just I probably should have said that. Just a spoiler warning. We have got a wide range of things to talk about here. So if you want to start off, because Lindsay's notes are nicely organised, so we'll start with whatever she's got first.
Well, I guess start at the start.
Yes.
I mean, just the very first song, Alexander Hamilton, I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah, I would think that's one of the more famous ones, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd heard that one and The Room Where It Happens are the ones that I kind of knew sort of a bit more about before I watched it.
Yeah.
But that was about it. But yeah, just that first song and the way like kind of a lot of the main cast are involved, and then the way Hamilton joins and like enters the stage, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a great opener because it really does kind of set the expectations for the entire show, because
Yeah.
people are like, whoa, this is a very different different kind of music to what
Yeah.
you'd be used to.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was sung through all the way through, but
Yeah.
I'd kind of previous musicals, I've kind of not really enjoyed that because I find it hard to follow along. And I will say, the very first time I watched it, I was a bit like, what's actually happening here?
Yes.
I'm just really bad at understanding stuff sometimes.
Yeah, so I would say, if I was to criticise anything at all, it would be at first I did find the rapping difficult to understand, what they were saying. Mainly because it was quite fast to me. But you soon get used to it. I mean, there's enough songs for you to get used to it. Definitely.
Yeah.
But they're all amazing. But yeah, there's not just, it's important to note there's not just hip hop / rap. There's also some more like traditional show tune types, bit of soul in there as well. It's a very varied, music, and a very diverse music. There's quiet moments in the show, such as Helpless, and even songs that kind of mix both, like Satisfied, I feel like has rap, but also, more of the show tune feel in certain parts.
Yeah. I mean, Satisfied is just absolute genius. I mean, just the fact that it kind of like rewinds and goes back and then like does it all again. It's from like a different point of view. I just absolutely love that. That's probably one of my favourite parts of the show, really.
Yeah, I mean, I found like the use of speed, different speeds of the show so interesting, because you have the slow-mo sections and that rewind section, and of course, on top of all that, you have the turntable stage.
Yeah, the revolve.
Which is amazing, how they use that.
I'd totally forgotten it had one.
Yeah, I
was like, oh my god.
I've never seen a show with a moving stage before, so
no, I haven't.
That was quite amazing, and the transitions are just so dynamic and so seamless.
Yeah.
It usually involves like some of the extras, such as the bullet, which we'll get onto later. Characters like that are just like moving chairs around in the background, but like even in like the slow mo sections, it just seems all like part of it, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
the choreography definitely helps with that.
Yeah. There's just so much detail with everything.
Yeah,
It's
although
just
sadly
amazing.
with the camera, you can't always. I think sometimes with the camera, the way it is done, you sometimes miss out on some of the
Yeah.
choreography.
Yeah, I feel like you can't appreciate it as much.
Yeah, it does tend to follow. Um, it does tend to follow where you would naturally look on stage, and it does provide what I call like a stores view, like what you would get if you were in the stores, especially
Yeah.
with the infamous spit, um,
Yeah.
and also angles that you would never have seen. For instance, in the Reynolds pamphlet, there's the aerial view, where it
Yeah.
kind of does the bird's eye bit, and they're all chucking the that bit's cool. And also,
Yeah.
when King George's first ever entrance is shot from backstage, you see him like walking
Yeah.
on. I think that's really cool, and you'd never see that usually, if you were
No.
watching it. So there's pros and cons to the camera. I think they did the best they could.
Yeah.
And it was, and all I didn't know until I did the research for this was that it was filmed over multiple shows. Lots of the close-ups and stuff were redone. And a lot of the songs were in a completely empty theatre, which I had no idea.
Yeah. I found that interesting. It's quite like amazing how like the cast gave up all. I think it was like all of the Monday of their day off, and yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it must have took a while to film, definitely, and the cameras. There's a variety of cameras. There was like the ones that like swing on a crane. Then there was just a variety of stuff to make it work.
Yeah.
But I think it is the closest you'll get to being. I mean, there's a lot of theatre cast recordings and stuff that I've watched, and it hasn't felt like you're actually there. But this does a good job of being very
Yeah.
cinematic.
Yeah. I think the main one that kind of like sticks out to me that I feel like you kind of miss a bit out on is Satisfied, and how when they're doing like that rewind bit, it's kind of, I think it's that bit anyway, it's kind of zoomed in on Angelica's face, and I feel like there's a lot more going on the stage,
Yeah,
like kind
yeah,
of the cast members moving backwards and doing everything backwards, and I feel like you don't get to see that really.
yeah. That's one of my favourite sections because there's a lot to take in with that.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw it for the first time, I was like, "What? What has just happened?" Because there was
Yeah.
there's just so much. And also, I think the props are quite interesting because there isn't a, a great deal of props.
Yeah, it's very minimal,
It's
isn't
very
it? And the scenery as
Yeah.
well.
I've put here staging is often simplistic but effective.
Yeah.
So lighting wise, there's often just a blue kind of glow, isn't there, on the
Yeah.
characters. Probably the most notable prop is the letters used in Burn.
Yeah.
And for those I mean, if you're still watching and you haven't seen it, it is where she literally burns letters. Eliza, Alexander's wife, burns letters between her and Alexander. And I read that the letters are actual copies of the real letters that Alexander and Eliza exchanged with each other,
Yeah.
which is
Which is
a
so
nice
amazing.
touch because you'd never know that if you were watching. You'd never know they
No.
were the actual. They could on those letters.
Yeah. I always find it interesting when I've read about the paper, like they chose specific paper so that it burns for exactly 2 minutes and 9 seconds, which is the length needed for the song, and then it automatically extinguishes so that Eliza can exit the stage in darkness.
Yeah,
And
because
I'm
that
just
because
like,
that
wow.
because that scene ends with a blackout, doesn't it? Blackout of the state.
Yeah. It's just so
Yeah, I
effective.
mean, who even thinks of that? That's so detailed, isn't it? I wouldn't have
I mean,
thought.
the fact that it's real flame is like pretty amazing in itself.
Oh yeah, like I remember I remember seeing that for the first time, and what a great song Burn is. You can just feel
Yeah.
the emotion with that one.
Yeah.
But speaking of characters, I'm very excited to talk about this. The bullet. Now,
Yeah.
this is something that I obviously absolutely did not notice the first time round.
No, same.
It's a hidden character, and she's a hidden character in a way. It's often, I think, it's always played by a female actually. In all the productions so far, she's a kind of a personification of death, and she follows characters around the stage. And she's in the final scene, and she escorts the bullet that Burr shoots across the stage. In the final scene, well, not the final scene, but the final scene for Hamilton. For example, she appears in Stay Alive when the gunshot sounds near Hamilton. She shakes hands with John Lawrence before his death. I think she also goes near Philip as well before he dies.
Yeah.
She follows Hamilton around the stage. It's Hamilton's death literally following him around the stage, and it's such a good thing to look out for. The main thing about Hamilton is its rewatchability, and I would absolutely recommend rewatching it and look out for the bullet, because she is such a clever character, and one that you just wouldn't notice if you went for the first time, which is so sad, really, isn't it? There's so many things you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, even like there's so many bits that there's just like so much to it, like so many layers and things. Like in My Shot, when there's one part where it's like the whoa, 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 and then that's like based off the dial-up tone, and I'm just like,
oh, is it? I never knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah, to kind of like show the transition, and I'm just like, it's just amazing.
But yeah, there's so many details, and that's why I'm so glad it's been immortalized on Disney Plus.
Yeah, same.
I think it's made it more accessible as well, because of course tickets were impossible, and potentially very pricey at times, as we talked about last episode. And therefore, yes, you still have to pay money to get Disney Plus, but it is accessible to the masses now.
Yeah.
Which is so much better.
It's definitely made me want to go and see it live.
Oh yeah, it's a great advert, isn't it, for the for the actual show?
Yeah.
Another character who, of course, is all of our favourites is good old King George.
Oh my god, yeah.
So he is the comedic character, really. Other than Lafayette, he is the main comedic character. His scenes provide a lot of comic relief, especially with all the war and the tragedy that's going on. What I find fascinating, though, is he does build a real sense of rapport with the audience, but he's only on stage for 9 minutes in total.
Yeah, I find that so interesting.
So that's a big impact in 9 minutes. It takes a very good actor to be, memorable in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, there's just so much like passion in his singing and the spitting.
Oh, it's all perfect. The accent, like saying say even lines like "when push comes to shove." That's such a British saying, isn't it? I feel like.
And I love like the little shoulder dance.
Oh, it's just Apparently, the walk isn't on purpose. It is because of how heavy.
Yeah,
the costume is, and the crown, and it's just it's amazing. Another thing you'll notice if you did watch again for sure is the amount of repetition and things cropping up later on.
Yeah.
So the most notable one to me, because it's one of my favourite songs, is the fact that in the Reynolds pamphlet there's a whole section taken straight from Satisfied.
Yeah.
Which I just love. I just think it fits, brilliantly.
There's
always, Burr often starts a lot of songs with the same kind of tune as Alexander Hamilton, where he asks, a bunch of questions about Hamilton. And I really like Burr's role, because Burr is basically Hamilton's narrator. He tells Hamilton's story, and he's obviously ultimately, inflicts the final blow. But what I love is that he doesn't get the final word. It's Eliza that gets the final word.
Yeah.
So although he tries to control Hamilton's story, Eliza's the one who tells it for years to come. Um,
Yeah.
she founded the private orphanage, first ever private orphanage, and yeah, she ends up being the looking like the real hero at the end, and it's such a great ending, isn't it? They all come together.
Yeah.
But then, of
So many
course,
like different stories behind that as well.
yeah, the ending, of course, is just another thing to think about. I think I think Lynn, really wanted. He didn't want it to just end. He wanted something to carry on, and he achieved that with Eliza's gasp.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories about this. Some people think it's her going into heaven. Some people think she sees Alexander. Some people think she sees God. Um, some people think that she's died and been reunited with Hamilton. And
Yeah.
others say that she's this is quite interesting. I like this one. Others say that she's seen the audience's reaction to Hamilton's story,
Yeah.
and she's like realised that like she's telling his story and stuff.
Yeah, that's my favourite
I
one.
like that
How,
one. Yeah.
yeah, she's kind of seeing that she's actually made a difference and spent all them years telling the story, and people actually know the story now because of what she did. And yeah, I just love that.
Yeah, the ending song really does just tie it all together, really.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if there'll ever be a sequel or anything, because Aaron Burr did live, but who knows?
More American history musicals.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it taught me a lot about that actually, because I
Yeah.
had heard of the founding fathers and stuff like that, but I'd never, looked into it.
No, it's not really something that I feel like I'd have been interested in. But
No, but he made it interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Another interesting thing to look out for is the end credits list everywhere that Lynn wrote Hamilton.
yeah,
List all the locations, which is brilliant
yeah. Such a great idea.
because this was years in the making. It wasn't just,
Yeah,
and you can tell, you can
yeah,
tell that it's been.
definitely. I
Uh,
also love the fact that like there's one song that's not properly a song; it's more of a scene where the "Tomorrow There'll Be More of Us," where they talk about um, Lawrence's death and the letter, and how that's not on the album because Lynn wanted to save it as a surprise for those who saw the show. And I just think like that's so like nice. It's the same with the gasp really. Like you don't kind of you go if you all you've listened to is that album and then you went to see the show, it's kind of you're still seeing something that you don't know,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
know what I mean.
Because you would think, that it would just end after that song, after the song finishes, it would just
Yeah,
end. But it obviously there was just that one final kind of punch, in the end.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, he's obviously left it completely open to interpretation, which is what I love about theatre, is that
yeah,
it is your interpretation of it, and I love things that make me think, and that made me think. So
yeah. I also really love the double casting and
yeah,
how
took me
kind
it
of
took me a while to realise that, admittedly.
yeah. Well, I for me it was Lafayette and Jefferson
Yeah,
who
same.
that was the one where I was like, hang on a minute, this is the same guy.
Because they
But
weren't
I
acting
was
the
like,
same.
no.
No.
And it was the hair as well, like the fact that in the first one he had his hair up and then in the second act he had it down. Um and but I kind of hadn't twigged and my brain was just like it's the same person, but the way he was talking I was like, well, it's not the same person. So that was one where I was confused with. But and it's the same with John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton. They're like the same person.
Yeah.
And but I just love how in the very, very start where they both say, well, Lafayette and Jefferson say we fought with him, and then Lawrence and Hamilton say me, I died for him. So it's kind of like it's only one person, but they're kind of talking about two.
Yeah, they're talking about both of the characters.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I find it amazing how Lynn managed to fit so much into just 2 hours 40? I think 2 hours 40
Yeah.
runtime, because I think I read somewhere Hamilton is over 25,000 words, and it's down to some of the songs being ridiculously fast. Obviously, most notably, Guns and Ships. There
Yeah.
is some fast, sections in there. And
Yeah.
apparently, if it was to go at a normal and that's actually the fastest in Broadway history, apparently. But
Oh.
if it was to go at a normal Broadway pace, it would be like 4 hours. More than over four
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I also love, although it's kind of sad, that Peggy, bless her, is kind
Yeah.
of forgotten about. After the first act, she obviously comes back as a different character. The actress does,
Yeah.
but Peggy is kind of in the background and stuff. But that's because she was actually the first to pass away.
Yeah. I find that like quite. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, she passed away quite young. I think 40,
Yeah.
40 something, I believe. And I never, because I always thought shame, because she's like kind of made into a meme, isn't she? And Peggy.
Yeah.
That's
She's
like,
just like quite poignant.
yeah, it's brilliant. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, oh, I love her.
Yeah.
What a queen. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of the sisters are very. Actually, there was a lot more sisters in real life as well. I think there was more than three, but Lynn just decided to focus on the three of them. Um,
Yeah.
but all the sisters are very, very likable.
Yeah, definitely.
And Angelica's very. She gets a lot of respect for what she does, because she realizes that he loves Eliza and kind of, steps
Yeah.
aside, which is.
I mean,
I
that
thought,
just takes guts,
yeah,
doesn't it?
I mean, I always feel sorry for her in those scenes.
Yeah. Same.
But yeah, is there anything else? Have you got anything else? This is meant to
I've
be
got
a
a
shorter episode, may I just add?
yeah. I've got a random fact that I've not
Oh,
mentioned yet.
yes, do say.
The bit where Jefferson in I forgot what song it is. What Did I Miss? Is that the one? Where he says, "Where have you been?" and Jefferson says, France. That was
Yes.
actually initially an improvised thing. David, who plays Jefferson, just like improvised that, and Lynn loved it that much that it became part of the
Which is amazing,
script.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always find it amazing, like, it takes a lot of guts to improvise as it is, but let alone in something so, structured.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, although it is a story very much of, death, there, there is a lot of funny moments. There's everything
Yeah.
really. It's so well balanced.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the criticisms when it first came out was the fact that it is historically inaccurate in places. Um,
Yeah.
but they do. I think Lynn did do a good job of not making Hamilton perfect. It's
Yeah.
quite clear that he's not a good guy when he cheats and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, I think you get that with anything. The Greatest Showman, for instance, isn't accurate historically either. It's
Yeah.
it would be a very different musical if it was completely accurate, because then it would be like a textbook, wouldn't it? It would be like
Yeah.
you were reading straight from the autobiography that it was inspired from.
Yeah. Which I doubt would be quite as entertaining.
No, and it's all about making it your own and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now all it needs to do is a UK tour.
Yeah, that would be great. Make it a little bit easier to see.
Yeah, of course. Currently, it's not currently right now, but before the pandemic, it is in the West End.
Yeah.
And it did do I think an American tour, didn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah.
And they also performed in Puerto Rico, which is where Lynn is from, which was nice.
Yes. Although I am quite excited because Lynn has said he does want to perform in the West End. So,
oh my god,
if that does ever happen, I will definitely be getting tickets.
Yeah,
I've just become so obsessed and literally watching like every Hamilton video and like every Lin-Manuel Miranda video and just like learning so much more about him.
Yeah,
because he's done like so much that I like didn't even I feel like before I watched Hamilton, I didn't even know who he was, and now I'm like, he's been in like Mary Poppins Returns, and he's like wrote the Moana
Yeah, he's
songs.
wrote
And...
a lot of things that you wouldn't have known about.
yeah, no,
No, I remember, before I went into it, I was like, I'm not gonna get obsessed with this like everyone else. I was like, nah,
yeah,
I was like, I'm not
same,
gonna like it that much. But
yeah,
yeah, how wrong was I? It's just addicting. That's all I can say.
it really is.
And
Yeah, it's just amazing.
it gets better every time you watch it. I would recommend, just all your friends, just say to them, "We're watching this," and then you'll get to see it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you've not watched it yet, definitely watch it.
Yeah, and you can even sign up for a free trial of Disney Plus, so you don't have
Yeah,
to pay any money. And then if you do love it, obviously you can subscribe and watch it again. But
watch it every day.
yeah, make it a routine. But yeah,
Yeah.
if that's everything, that basically
Yeah.
concludes our review. In terms of, are we going to do a star rating? So we do a star rating.
Ooh.
Well, I would say there's no reason why I can't give it 5 stars.
Well, same really.
There's
I mean,
there's just,
what's not to love?
yeah, exactly. What is there not to love?
You've even got a little 60-second intermission in the middle
Oh yeah,
if you want it.
it's brilliant how they put that in. It's just,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
and it
I was a bit like, I wonder when half time is.
and it proper has a countdown on it as well, and all those types of
Yeah,
things. It's just brilliant.
it's great.
So next episode, as planned, will be the rumored Strictly contestants. Um,
Yes.
we will. As for these bonus episodes, they're not. There's not really going to be a schedule. Really, it's just going to be as and when. They're just fun to do. They're not meant to be as long as the main episodes, but this might end up being so now. But that's fine.
There's a lot to say.
Yeah, there was a lot to say, and we love doing them. So yeah, they'll
Yeah,
just come along sporadically.
yeah. No routine.
And that's all.
Time for the curtain call.